I never thought a drunk call could ruin my life twice. The first time, it cost me a man I loved. The second, it brought him back right into my office. When I woke up that morning, my head felt like someone had stuffed a marching band inside it. The phone lay next to me, screen cracked, the call history lighting up with one name that made my stomach twist. Liam Carter. 3 years. 3 damn years since I'd last seen him. I buried my face in my hands. Jesus Christ, Ethan, I muttered. What the hell did you do? Apparently, 3 glasses of bourbon and a lonely Friday night were all it took to turn me into a walking cliché. Drunk, heartbroken, and stupid enough to call the one person I'd spent years trying to forget. I showered, put on my usual armor, a crisp shirt, perfect tie, the kind of smile that hides everything, and headed to work. Being a financial consultant in Manhattan didn't leave much time for sentiment. The office smelled of coffee, ambition, and quiet desperation. My assistant waved a file at me before I could reach my desk. New client just confirmed. Meeting in 20 minutes. Big deal, the company's expansion could mean millions, she said. Great, I replied automatically, scanning the folder. Then I froze. The name at the top blurred before my eyes. Liam Carter, CEO, Carter Media Group. The air left my lungs. It was like the universe had been waiting for the perfect moment to laugh in my face. By the time the conference room door opened, my pulse was already sprinting. And there he was, Liam, walking in like a storm wearing a 3-piece suit. His hair was a little shorter now, but his eyes, God, those same eyes, sharp, blue, full of things I didn't want to feel again. Ethan. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. It's been a while. I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. 3 years. But who's counting? He smirked faintly. You are. The room felt too small for the both of us. I busied myself with the file, pretending the tremor in my hands didn't exist. Liam sat across from me, confident as ever, but I could feel the tension under his calm facade. So, I said, clearing my throat, Carter Media is looking to expand internationally. You'll need an investment strategy that... I didn't come here for a strategy, Liam interrupted softly. Not just that, anyway. My heart stuttered. Then what do you want, Liam? He leaned forward slightly, his eyes pinning me down. Closure, he said. Or something close to it. 3 years ago, we had been everything to each other. Until I broke it. Back then, I was just starting out, ambitious, terrified of failure, and more terrified of being seen. Liam had been open, brave, the kind of man who didn't flinch from the word love between 2 men. I wasn't. Couldn't be. I'd chosen career over him. I told him I didn't want a future with him, the biggest lie I'd ever spoken. He'd walked away that night without a word, his face unreadable, but his silence screamed louder than any argument could. And now, sitting across from me, he was a living reminder of every regret I tried to bury. I took a steadying breath. We should keep this professional. Liam tilted his head. Of course. Like you did when you called me at 2 in the morning and told me you missed me. My face went cold. You answered? He smiled, slow and cutting. You think I wouldn't pick up after 3 years? I wanted to hear what you'd say. You said you still loved me. The words hit like a punch. I looked away, feeling every eye in the office turn to smoke around us. It was a mistake, I lied. No, he said quietly. It was the first honest thing you've said to me in years. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing him the way he'd looked at me in that meeting, somewhere between anger and affection. My apartment felt emptier than usual. I poured another drink, staring at the city lights bleeding through my window. I told myself I didn't care, that it was just business, that I could handle it. But when my phone buzzed with a text from him, my heart betrayed me. Liam, dinner. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Business talk, if that helps you sleep. I stared at it for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Finally, I typed back, Ethan, fine, business. But when I walked into that restaurant the next night, nothing about it felt like business. He was already there, sitting near the window, candlelight flickering across his face. The years had changed him, not softened, but refined. The same warmth was there, but now it was layered with power, control, and quiet confidence. "Ethan," he greeted, standing to pull out a chair for me. Always the gentleman, always making it harder to forget him. I sat down, avoiding his gaze. "So, let's talk about your company's numbers." He chuckled. "You're really going to hide behind spreadsheets again? Spreadsheets don't ask questions I can't answer." He leaned back, his expression unreadable. "What about the ones you won't answer?" I stared at him, anger flickering just to cover the ache. "What do you want from me, Liam?" He met my eyes. "I want to know why you ran." I swallowed hard. "Because I was scared. Because loving you made everything else irrelevant." "And now?" he asked softly. I looked at him, the man I'd lost, the one I'd never stopped loving, and said the only truth I could manage. "Now I'm still scared, but I'm tired of pretending I'm not." We didn't speak for a while after that. Just silence, thick and electric. The kind that says more than words ever could. Then he reached across the table, his hand brushing mine, a touch so brief it could have been accidental, but we both knew better. "Then stop pretending," he whispered. The city outside was alive, horns, laughter, life, but all I could hear was my heartbeat, frantic and loud. I wanted to reach for him. I wanted to go back to that night 3 years ago and choose differently. But I didn't move. Couldn't. He smiled sadly. Still the same Ethan. Always one step away. He stood up, dropped a few bills on the table, and said quietly, "Good night." As he walked away, something inside me broke again, quietly, without ceremony. And this time I wasn't sure I'd survive it. I told myself I wouldn't see him again outside of work. That promise lasted exactly 48 hours. Liam's company deal was worth millions, and I was the lead consultant. Avoiding him wasn't just impossible, it was professional suicide. Every meeting was a minefield of old emotions buried just beneath the surface. Every look, every pause, every half-smile, all threatened to pull me back into the gravity of him. By the third meeting, I'd memorized the way he spoke. Calm, controlled, but every so often, when his guard slipped, there was warmth there. The same warmth that used to make me feel safe. That afternoon, the conference room was filled with tension thicker than the steam off our untouched coffees. Liam was explaining a proposal to the investors, but his eyes flicked toward me every few minutes, sharp and knowing. When the meeting ended, the others left one by one, leaving just the two of us. "Ethan," he said quietly, "stay a minute." I froze halfway to the door. "We already went through the numbers." "I'm not talking about numbers." I sighed and turned. "Then what are we talking about, Liam?" He looked at me for a long time, searching my face like he was trying to find the person he used to know. "You've changed," he said finally. "People do that after getting their hearts broken," I replied dryly. He smiled, a ghost of the one I'd loved. "Funny. I thought you were the one who walked away." The words hit deeper than I wanted them to. I set my folder down, trying to keep my voice steady. "Maybe we both did." He stood and came closer, his footsteps slow, deliberate. "You know what I remember most about you?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. "The way you'd hold your breath every time you lied." I looked up at him, heart racing. "And what do you think I'm lying about now?" He smiled sadly. "That you don't still feel something." We stood there in silence, the city glowing behind him like fire through glass. I wanted to deny it, to shut him out with some well-rehearsed excuse, but my throat wouldn't let the lie out. Instead, I said, "It doesn't matter what I feel. We're professionals now." Liam took a step closer. "You can't even say it without shaking." His nearness was maddening. I could smell his cologne, the same one from years ago, sharp cedar and faint vanilla. It was like a memory I couldn't wash off. "Stop doing this," I whispered. "Doing what?" "Making me remember." He looked at me, eyes softening for the first time. "Maybe you're the one who never stopped remembering." Before I could answer, the door opened. My assistant poked her head in. "Ethan, sorry, conference call in 5 minutes." I stepped back instantly like a kid caught stealing. "Right. Thanks, Claire. I'll be there." When I looked back, Liam was smiling faintly, but there was sadness in it. Some things never change, he murmured. That night, I sat in my apartment again. Lights off, city alive outside. I scrolled through my phone, fingers hovering over his number. I told myself, don't start what you can't finish. Instead, I typed a message, then deleted it, then typed again. Ethan, good presentation today. Investors seemed happy. Pathetic. I hit send anyway. A few minutes later, the reply came. Liam, you're terrible at small talk. Come downstairs. My pulse jumped. Downstairs? I walked to my window, peering down. And there he was leaning against his car, parked across the street, hands in his pockets, looking straight up at my building. The night air was cold, but my chest burned. Against every rational instinct I had, I grabbed my coat and went down. When I reached him, he smiled slightly. You took your time. I was deciding whether this was a good idea, I said. He tilted his head. And it's not. Then why are you here? I didn't answer. He opened the passenger door. Come on. I'm starving. I hesitated for 1 second too long. Then I got in. We drove through the city in silence. Neon lights painted reflections across the windshield red, blue, white like memories flickering through time. He finally spoke. You still listen to jazz? I turned to him, startled. You remember that? I remember everything. His voice was quiet, honest. He pulled up outside a small restaurant in Brooklyn, the kind of place with brick walls and dim lighting, where time felt slower. The owner greeted him by name. Of course he did. Liam had always had that charm that made people remember him. We ordered pasta and wine, pretending it was just dinner between colleagues. But every touch, every laugh, every look betrayed us. Halfway through the meal, I said softly, You shouldn't be here. He met my gaze. You keep saying that, but you never leave. I didn't have an answer. He reached across the table, brushing his thumb against my wrist. The touch sent a shock through me. Tell me to stop, he said. Couldn't. So I didn't. Later, we walked by the river. The city lights shimmered across the dark water like broken promises. Liam shoved his hands into his pockets, glancing at me. You know, when you called me that night, I almost didn't answer. Why did you? He smiled faintly. Because some part of me still hoped you'd say what you couldn't 3 years ago. And did I? You said enough. The wind carried his words, soft but heavy. I looked at him, the pain and longing twisting inside me. You think this, whatever this is, can just start over? He stopped walking. I don't know. But I'm tired of pretending I don't want to try. The honesty in his voice hit me harder than any argument could. I stared at him, searching for a reason to say no and found none. He stepped closer, his breath visible in the cold night air. Ethan, he whispered, stop running. And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, messy, full of years of anger and longing. The world around us dissolved into light and noise. For the first time in years, I stopped thinking. When we pulled apart, I was breathless. This is a mistake, I murmured. He looked at me like he already knew. Maybe, but it's ours. The next morning, I woke up alone. His jacket was gone. The pillow beside me cold. A note sat on the nightstand, scrawled in his handwriting. Some lines we cross, we can't uncross. But I don't regret it. Oh. My chest ached. I wanted to call him. To tell him that for the first time in years, I didn't feel empty. But the day didn't wait for heartbreak. I had meetings, deadlines, and one of them, of course, was with him. At noon, I walked into the office boardroom. Liam was already there, looking like nothing had happened. Professional, controlled, perfect. Morning, he said, eyes steady. I nodded, sitting opposite him, pretending I could still breathe normally. Morning. We went through the presentation as if last night hadn't happened. The silence between us was deafening. When the others left, he gathered his papers slowly, then looked at me. Last night, I began. He cut me off. Wasn't a mistake, he said quietly. But it complicates everything. Yeah. He hesitated, then added, We'll figure it out. Unless you'd rather pretend it didn't happen. I met his eyes. I've done enough pretending for one lifetime. He smiled faintly. Good. Over the next few weeks, working with him became both heaven and hell. We spent hours side by side, building strategies, reviewing contracts, and stealing glances we pretended not to notice. The tension was constant, an invisible current between us, pulling tighter every day. Some nights we stayed late in the office, papers scattered everywhere, the city humming beyond the windows. And sometimes, when the silence grew too heavy, he'd look up and say something that made it impossible not to fall a little more. Do you ever think about what we'd be like if we hadn't fallen apart? I'd laugh it off, but the truth was I thought about it every damn day. One night, after everyone had gone home, I found him in the conference room, sleeves rolled up, staring at the skyline. He didn't turn when I walked in. You ever wonder, he said softly, if some people are just meant to hurt each other? Yeah, I replied. But I also think some people hurt because they care too much. He looked at me, then really looked, and for a moment it felt like the world had stopped spinning. You always were too good at saying the right thing, he murmured. Not good enough to say it when it mattered. He smiled, faint and sad. You're saying it now. We were standing too close. Again. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead, fingers lingering against my skin. You know this won't end well, he whispered. Then let it end beautifully, I said. And this time, when he kissed me, there was no hesitation. The office, the city, the years we'd lost, none of it mattered. For the first time, I didn't care who saw. They say love isn't about timing, but I've never believed that. Because for 3 years, Liam and I had perfect love at the wrong time. Now, we had the right time, but a love broken in too many places to fit back together easily. It started with whispers in the office. Nothing spreads faster than rumors, and nothing burns more quietly than the truth hiding behind them. A late-night project here, a shared cab ride there. 2 men staying in the office long after everyone else had gone. The looks from colleagues came first, the quiet questions. Then the phone call from corporate. Ethan, my manager said, her tone cautious. We've received feedback about you and Mr. Carter. I froze. Feedback? She sighed. You know how sensitive our clients are to reputation. Just be careful. I'm not saying it's wrong, but people talk. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger, because it was always the same story, wasn't it? You could be brilliant, successful, respectable, but if you loved differently, it became complicated. That evening, I called Liam. We need to talk, I said. He met me in Central Park, the kind of place that made everything feel smaller, quieter. The fall leaves crunched underfoot, and the air smelled faintly of rain. He could tell something was wrong the second he saw me. What happened? I hesitated. People know. He didn't flinch. Let them. Liam, he stepped closer, eyes blazing. I'm not ashamed, Ethan. I know, but this could hurt both of us. Your company, my position, he cut me off. You're scared again. That stung more than I wanted to admit. I'm not scared. I'm being realistic. He exhaled, his voice low. You're doing it again, choosing the world over yourself. I turned away, staring at the skyline through the trees. Maybe because the world doesn't make it easy for people like us. He was silent for a long time. Then he said softly, It's never been easy, but it's always been worth it. I looked at him, then really looked, and saw the man who'd never stopped fighting. The man I'd run from because I hadn't known how to stand beside him. But I wasn't that man anymore. Then maybe it's time we stop hiding, I said quietly. The following week, we attended a corporate gala, the kind of event built on glass smiles and expensive wine. Liam and I arrived separately, keeping the distance that professionalism demanded. But our eyes found each other across the room anyway. He looked devastating in a black suit. Confident, controlled, dangerous. Halfway through the night, one of the executives leaned toward me and whispered, So it's true then? You and Carter. I forced a polite smile. What if it is? The man blinked, caught off guard by my calmness. He laughed awkwardly and walked away. But I caught the shift in the room after that, the glances, the murmurs. And then, in the middle of the crowd, Liam walked toward me. Slowly, deliberately, he stopped a foot away, close enough for his cologne to cut through the noise. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "Not really. Do you want to leave?" I looked around at the sea of polished strangers, at the fake smiles, at the walls I'd built to protect myself from being seen. Then I looked at him. "No," I said. "Not this time." And before I could think twice, I reached for his hand. The room went silent. It was small, simple, our fingers lacing together, but it felt like a revolution. The kind that starts not with shouting, but with choosing not to hide anymore. He looked at me with something between pride and disbelief. "You sure?" I smiled faintly, scared as hell, but sure. He squeezed my hand, his thumb brushing the back of mine. "Then let's give them something to talk about." The fallout was immediate. A few clients pulled out of deals. My manager called me in for a tense meeting. And yes, the whispers grew louder. But something else happened too. Other people, quiet, cautious, brave, came up to me in private. A designer, a junior analyst, even a senior partner. They said things like, "Thank you for not hiding." For the first time, I realized that maybe our truth wasn't just ours to bear. Maybe it was something bigger. Still, it wasn't easy. Liam and I argued. A lot. About how public to be. About the risks. About the future. One night, after a particularly brutal argument about whether to attend a media event together, he stormed out. I stood in the apartment, heart pounding, watching the door close behind him. Hours passed. The city roared outside. I almost called him. Almost. Then my phone buzzed. "Liam, meet me." Same place. It was raining. By the time I reached the corner of 5th and West, the storm had turned the city into a blur of reflections. Liam stood under the streetlight, soaked, his coat clinging to him. I ran to him, rain mixing with tears. I hadn't realized I was crying. He looked at me with that same exhausted tenderness I'd fallen for years ago. "You really think I can just walk away again?" he said. "I was scared you already had." He shook his head. "No, Ethan. I left to cool down. Not to leave you." The rain poured harder, a chaotic symphony above us. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. "How to be brave every day." He stepped closer, cupping my face with both hands. His touch was warm despite the cold. "You don't have to do it every day. Just today. Then we'll try again tomorrow." And before I could answer, he kissed me right there, in the middle of the storm. People passed by, umbrellas flashing like ghosts, but I didn't care. For once, the world could see. When we pulled apart, I whispered, "You make it sound easy." He smiled. "It's not easy. It's just worth it." Months later, the deal with Carter Media went through. We'd made it work professionally, personally, painfully. The rumors eventually quieted. The world moved on. But we didn't go back to hiding. One evening, we sat on the rooftop of his apartment, watching the sunset bleed into the skyline. He handed me a glass of wine and said, "You ever think about how far we've come?" I laughed softly. "From drunk dialing you to signing multimillion-dollar contracts? Yeah, it's been a journey." He chuckled, but then his tone softened. "No, I mean, from who we were back then." I looked at him, the city glowing behind him like a crown. "Back then, I was running from myself. Now I think I finally stopped." He leaned closer. "And what about me? You never ran. You just waited for me to catch up." He smiled, brushing his thumb along my jaw. "Then I guess I can stop waiting." The city lights came on below us, thousands of tiny stories flickering to life. He pulled me close, his forehead resting against mine. "You still scared?" "Always," I admitted. "But now it doesn't stop me." "Good." He kissed me gently. "Because I'm not going anywhere." That night, as we sat together, I thought about everything that had brought us here, the mistakes, the silence, the fear. Love hadn't been easy. It had broken us, healed us, tested us. But it had also rebuilt us, not as who we used to be, but as who we chose to become. The world didn't suddenly change because we did. There were still whispers, still stares, still days when courage felt heavier than the air we breathed. But every morning, I woke up beside him and knew it was worth it. Sometimes, when he caught me looking at him across the breakfast table, he'd smirk and say, "What are you thinking about?" And I'd smile and say, "How lucky I am that I made that stupid drunk call." He'd laugh, reach for my hand, and whisper, "Best mistake you ever made." And maybe he was right, because sometimes the things that break you are the same things that set you free. Epilogue: a year later, Carter Media announced a major new campaign, one that centered on inclusivity in business leadership. Liam gave a keynote speech. I sat in the audience, heart full, watching him speak like the world had finally caught up to his courage. When he finished, the applause thundered. He looked straight at me, smiled, and for a moment, it was like time folded in on itself from that broken night 3 years ago to this one, where everything felt whole again. Afterward, he found me backstage. "You cried," he teased. "I didn't." He grinned. "You did." I rolled my eyes. "Just shut up and kiss me." He did. And for once, I didn't care who saw. In a city that never sleeps, under lights that never fade, 2 men learned to stop hiding. And somewhere between heartbreak and healing, love, stubborn, patient, defiant, found its way home. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.